This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by lynda.com, the unparalleled online video training library. For a free 10-day unlimited trial, visit lynda.com/MacVoices. And by MacVoices Magazine, our free Flipboard magazine that brings you some of the best Mac, iPhone, and iPad productivity tips on the web. High in signal, low in noise, just like MacVoices, MacVoices Magazine includes information on how you can get more out of your Apple technology. Subscribe at macvoices.com/magazine or search for MacVoices Magazine on Flipboard. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the Talk of the Mac community. I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, we get to talk to an old friend this time about a program that he's been working on for a while, and a new version is coming up, and I'm kind of excited to find out a little bit more about it because he hasn't told me much either. Mr. Jim Lee of Tropical Software. Jim, it's great to see you. How's everything going?
Everything is going great. Nice to see you again, Chuck.
Yeah, it's been way too long. It's been way too long. And of course, the program I'm talking about is TopXNotes. You're working on a new version, but this time there's a little bit of a twist with it because you're doing a crowdfunding operation with this version of TopXNotes. That's correct.
As I was telling you a little earlier, I sort of got inspired by a program called MailMate, which is actually almost entirely written by one guy. His name's Benny over in Denmark. And he reached a point where he didn't have quite enough customers to pay his bills, I guess would be one way to put it. He was thinking about moving on, doing something else. He's a brilliant programmer. And he got the idea to contact his customers individually and ask if they would help him finish his MailMate 2, version 2, if they would consider making a contribution to help him finish that. And he got a very positive response, excuse me, and then he decided to go with an outfit called IndieGoGo, which is similar to Kickstarter and some of the others. And he organized a real nifty crowdfunding and launched it and got an immediate response from his existing customer base because he had them all sort of primed to go. And then had kind of a slower period. And then a friend of his sent around mention of his crowdfunding to 200,000 Mac users. And that was sort of the thing that put him over the top. And I sort of looked at the whole thing and I thought, well, I've got a version 2 I'm working on. We could use some capital. We're kind of in the same situation. And I just sort of used his as an outline. And of course, ours is a whole different kind of application. And started writing this up and realized that my email contacts, a lot of them were way out of date. I had spent a lot of time massaging the email contacts base until I got it cleaned, as they call it, so it doesn't get declared a spammer. Of course, they're all legitimate customers, but I don't know, I guess people forget sometimes. And, so it's trying to do everything the right way. It's my style. Stay out of trouble best I can. So anyway, I pulled up the MailMate campaign on IndieGoGo. Just short and sweet, in 3 weeks, he tried to raise $25,000, and in 3 weeks he raised over $42,000. And that's enabled him to go forward with his MailMate project and be pretty successful. We're trying something very similar.
So let's talk for just a second about TopXNotes, and we'll get you to show us a little bit of it in a few minutes, the new version. But this conversation comes at an interesting time. El Capitan has just come out, and the Notes version the Notes program in El Capitan and in iOS 9 talk to each other through iCloud. They've added a lot of features. Ironically, also, as we talk today, I saw a number of posts on the Mac web about Evernote being apparently, allegedly, possibly being in some financial trouble, which comes as a little bit of a surprise. It seems like Notes is one of those interesting categories of applications that everyone has an idea about how it should work, how it could work. And that's from the developer side. And then there's the user side who has its own version of how it works for them. And so there's not a lot of agreement. And that's not a bad thing, but there's just not a lot of agreement on exactly what works best. I've always found that, I want to play with different Notes applications to find what suits me best. I've even found myself using 2 or 3 different Notes applications at times for different things, as playing on the strengths of each one of those programs.
Yeah, a friend of mine actually, ironically, emailed me about this just an hour or so ago, and he wondered if I had looked into this phenomenon, maybe using one at home and another one for business, for instance. And we really haven't had a chance to talk about it yet, but there are a lot of people that use some business notes program on a PC, and then they have another one at home for their Mac. And they may or may not be allowed to bring them back into work. So it's actually the whole thing is not as simple as it is, and I think Evernote's tried very creatively to solve this problem. I'm astounded that you have rumors of financial trouble. This guy's raised over $50 million in Silicon Valley venture capital. They haven't raised any, so I don't feel so bad now.
Yeah, and I'll point folks, if you haven't heard this or seen it, go to John Gruber and Daring Fireball, and he had a post today about it. So that doesn't mean it's dead. It's absolutely accurate, but John usually vets his stuff pretty well. So, and that doesn't mean that they're going away by any means, as far as we know. It's just, again, it just is an interesting time to talk to you about another Notes program and your approach to it, because I always liked a lot of things about Top 10 Notes, and so I'm anxious to see what you've done with it and where you're going to take it.
Well, I can't wait to show you that. We have a whole different approach than they have. Their approach is it's very heavily reliant on the web component and syncing to a web component. And ours is just the opposite. It's all done with local synchronization, local Wi-Fi. Nothing goes on the web at all. Now, we probably will move on in that direction in a few years. But right now, everything is cloud-free, as we like to call it. And there are a lot of people, I think a growing number of people that are more and more nervous about how much they want to get out there on the cloud. So it does have a convenience factor, and this is one of the little battles I think that will get worked out over the next few years, is people will figure out a way to do it safely on the cloud, or they'll just pull back and keep a lot of their information local, or maybe they'll have 2 programs, one for convenience and one where they keep their more sensitive stuff. Their sensitive stuff never goes in the cloud.
So talk a little bit about that just for a second. You say it's cloudless syncing. It never goes to the cloud, and yet it syncs. So does this just sync between my devices? Well, first of all, I better back up for a second. Is there a version of Top 10 Notes for the Mac and for the iOS devices?
Yes. In fact, this month we're going to be releasing something new. I don't know if you're familiar with the term freemium suite, but we have 3 iOS apps that are coming out this month. One of them is already out. It's iOS Top 10 Notes for iOS free, and there'll be a regular Top 10 Notes, and then there'll be a Top 10 Notes Pro. These are all essentially done. We're tweaking them just a little bit, but they're all going to come out during the crowdfunding campaign. They're all very inexpensive. So I'll back up a little bit. Went to a seminar a few years ago, and Apple was giving a seminar. One of the main components was synchronization to the cloud. And they used the concept of the truth. In other words, what's the true copy of your note? The true copy is always Apple's iCloud copy. So wherever you're syncing from, you consider the cloud one as the truth. in our situation, your Mac notepad is the truth. And so our Mac, our synchronization is set up to go between one Mac and numerous iOS devices. I think we're up to 15 now that we allow. I don't know. We could probably go up higher if somebody wanted it. Normally, it's one iPod, one iPad, and one iPhone, or two iPhones at the most. That pretty much covers most people that are consumers. We have had some requests for Mac to Mac. That's something we're going to look into doing also, but it's not done yet. So it's, I don't know if I'm explaining that in a way that's making sense.
Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense. So, well, first, okay, so let's go down that path for just a second. So, what is going to be the difference once they're all out? Free Top 10 Notes, and then what was it? Top 10 Notes Pro, or the third level?
Yes. Top 10 Notes will be very similar to what it is now. It'll be a basic program. All three of them will sync to Top 10 Notes Mac. Top 10 Notes Free is a little ad-supported app. Kind of gets you in the door without spending any money to try it out. Top 10 Notes Free gets you in the door. Top 10 Notes has a little more features, more font-type features, that sort of thing. Top 10 Notes Pro has note encryption. So you can put your sensitive information in Top 10 Notes on the go as well as on the Mac. It also has this note sharing concept that we've been working on, where you can export a note to a number of other applications. And I've been doing some testing recently of this. We're not quite done with it yet. And I was surprised to find that Apple's new Notes program and Evernote and OneNote from Microsoft, none of them really have embraced this note sharing thing very much, although it's a free API from Apple. So we'll be able to send them notes if they'll accept them, but they're not set up to send them back to us. So I'm hoping that can work out in our favor as becoming more of a note hub that talks to all the other note programs. That's one of the things that we're looking into right now. We're doing some more testing on it. We thought we were through, and then we found that Apple had changed the APIs, and all of a sudden there's like 100 different programs that we can talk to. So we've got to kind of limit it with the first release until we have time to research. Each one of them handles things just a little differently. Some can handle text only. Some can handle plain text only without styles or fonts or anything else. Some can handle text and pictures. Some can handle links embedded. Others cannot. And so we're just trying to figure out how to present each other application with something that it will recognize. And it's a little bit of a chore, but we'll get it figured out.
Yeah, that's something I hadn't heard about. So you will be able to send notes to all these other notes applications. That to me, that would sound like it's potentially very valuable.
Well, I would hope so. It would mean we're talking about using more than one note program for different purposes. So you could use Top 10 Notes as your hub, hypothetically, and maybe have a favorite program on the Mac and a different one on iOS that you use for whatever purposes. I mean, there are some note programs where you can blog a note right from the notepad. There are others that do other things, have other strengths, and it makes perfect sense to me to have more than one note program. I would like to say that we can do everything, and maybe we will eventually, but we're a small outfit, and Apple keeps giving us new things to do almost every month that we weren't anticipating. So sometimes it's hard to stay focused on your feature set when Apple's somewhat unintentionally pulling the rug out from under your products. Apple has a lot of directions that they want to go for security and other reasons, and sometimes it's hard to keep up.
Yeah, it's a fast-moving world, too. Today's edition of MacVoices is sponsored by lynda.com, the unparalleled online training library. Get a free, full 10-day trial at lynda.com/MacVoices. In case you hadn't noticed, there's a lot going on in the Apple tech world right now. Apple has updated the Mac OS to El Capitan, iOS 9 is gaining more adoption each day and has lots of interesting new features, including some specifically designed for the iPhone 6s and iPhone 6s Plus. And let's not forget about Apple Watch, which extends Apple tech into the wearables space. There's a lot to keep up with, and there is, as you might expect, lots more coming. That's one reason you should look to lynda.com as an excellent source of training on all of these changes. With lynda.com, you can get an introduction to Mac OS X El Capitan's new features to get you up to speed quickly, or watch Mac OS X El Capitan Essential Training to go a bit more in depth with the new OS. For your iPhone and iPad, there's lynda.com's iOS 9 Essential Training to make sure that you're taking full advantage of all that the new mobile OS has to offer, whether you're running it on the latest iPhone or iPad, or on a legacy device. If you've just invested in an Apple Watch, then you're going to want to watch both Up and Running with Apple Watch, as well as Apple Watch OS 2 new features, so that you know all about the latest additions to your device. That's what's available now as I record this, and the odds are that there will be more titles in very short order. How do I know that? Because lynda.com adds new courses every week. They are approaching 4,000 titles and might be there by the time you hear this. But lynda.com doesn't just focus on Apple tech. In fact, they don't just focus on tech. lynda.com is a great place to get training on business, education, video production, and more. With lynda.com, one subscription gets you access to the entire library, so you might start with the OS 9 course, but veer off into accounting. Or watch an Apple Watch video, then decide you want to know more about leadership. No limits, no restrictions, no silos, just an amazing library of knowledge and information that is yours for the watching. You're going to get excited about what you can learn, what you will want to learn with lynda.com. To get started and find out just how much fun learning can be, sign up for a free 10-day trial at lynda.com/MacVoices that gives you access to all of the courses I mentioned, plus a whole lot more. Watch as many as you want during your trial, then sign up and keep going. Whether it's for business or personal development, lynda.com is a resource you can't ignore. Again, lynda.com/MacVoices gets you a full free 10-day trial. Do it now and be learning in just a couple minutes. That's lynda.com/MacVoices for access to their unparalleled training library. Thanks to lynda.com for supporting MacVoices. So that's a discussion for iOS, not iOS top 10 notes. How about on the Mac? Is that going to be just top 10 notes, or are there different levels of freemium
right now,
there?
There's one Mac application. We have looked into putting out a simplified version of it at a lower price point. We haven't seen a lot of demand for that, but we may end up doing that down the road. And this is, we're sort of going through, a period of evaluating what people want, and I'm already wondering if the freemium suite will be too complicated for people. We'll just have to see how that works out on the iOS first, and then make a decision on that.
The last thing before we get into actually looking at this, you mentioned Kickstarter and IndieGoGo. You're going with the Kickstarter option, right?
No, IndieGoGo.
You are going IndieGoGo. Excuse me. Okay. All right, great. So, and of course, we'll have a link in the show notes to the IndieGoGo when it's there, and people can check it out. So if you don't mind, can we get a look at the new top 10 notes?
Yeah.
Jim, before we get into too many of the new details of Top 10 Notes, the next version, let's talk a little bit about the feature set that comes with Top 10 Notes as it is and has been.
All righty. I'd be glad to talk about that. So Top 10 Notes has some very unique features. One of them, probably the most unique feature, is the ability to display more than one note at once. So here, for instance, are two notes. I'm going to just use our samples here to generate a clean checklist starter note. Here's another one that I did the other day of a banking note. These can be anything you want. All you have to do is push this little orange button and you get another view. And actually, you can get as many of these as you've got screen width. You can drag and drop text from one to another. You can cut and paste from one note view to another. You use the little green arrow to dial a different note into the view. And probably the most unique thing about our Multiview implementation is this little sliding text and format toolbar that always stays above where you're typing, where you've got fonts, you've got font sizes, got styles like bold and italic and underline. You can change the color of the font. You can do some highlighting. It's sort of semi-permanent. And you can even change the background color of the note. All of this is built into the little toolbar. And okay, we have left, center, or right justify. All of this can be done with this little toolbar. And it's always right above where you're typing. You never have to hunt for it. And we find that to be a really handy feature of Top 10 Notes and its multi-view implementation. Also got a very fancy note organizer, we call it. It's sort of a hybrid table of contents index. So here's in the contents tab, I have all of my notes alphabetized and folders in the same hierarchy. If I move over here to index, it's as if there were no folders. And this is all sortable forward and reverse in each column. You've got a variety of ways of finding your way to a note. Date created, date modified, a note number, a category, which we'll get into in a minute, and then the note name. You can also use the third tab to show which notes are in a particular category. For instance, this is all of your quick notes. This would be all the notes I have set up for iPod Sync right now, none. This is all the notes I have set up for traditional sync, 1. And these are my to-do notes, a new category of note that we have. And then the to-do notes, this is part of Top 10 Notes too, but this is here, I'll show it real quick. You can set a priority, set a due date. It has a note number, date modified, date created, and of course, the ubiquitous checklist. Just about everything in Top 10 Notes is very intuitive. There are a variety of tooltips. They're all the standard ones: Command New for a new note, Command W for close, Command S for save. All of your tooltips your menus are self-documenting. So if there's a keyboard shortcut, it shows up right here in the menus. This is classic, the classic way the Mac has been for a million years. And let's see, what else? We have encryption. So let's say you wanted to put this trip planning note protected. Simply go up to the note menu, select note password, and give it a password. I try to always use tests so I don't end up with a note that I can't open. But tests is not something I recommend you do for real, but just for showing you how it works. So now this note is encrypted. Now you see the little lock that's appeared down here. If I slide out of this note and try to come back to it, it will not let me in without the password. And you can show what you typed if you like. Now, of course, my hint was the password, which is not a good way to do. I intentionally put in the wrong password here. This is what happens when you put in the wrong password. You just can't see it. And if you put in the right password, then you get to see your note. So you can originally we had just one password for the entire notepad. But we found that most people didn't really want to have the entire notepad passworded because they didn't really care if somebody saw their to-do list or their shopping list. They only had 2 or 3 notes of sensitive information. So we added this note encryption. But if you want to set a password for the entire notepad, you can do that here in the security tab. It's the same way. You just enter it, confirm it, give it a good hint, and now the entire notepad is encrypted. What does that mean? If I quit Top 10 Notes and restart it, I can't do anything without giving it the password. Can't even see the list of notes. And I actually had two, because I had this note open, so I had to give the password to get in the program, and then I had to give the password to get into the note. You can do both if you really want to be super secure. We also have a very modern toolbar up here, and you can customize this. You can drag items up there and put whatever you want up here, whatever order you want. You can take things down and so forth. You can also, just the icon, just the text, or icon and text. All this has become very standard since we organized this. Well, I think that's the basics, Chuck. We do have a extremely elaborate help that's built into Top 10 Notes. I think that's about in a very elaborate README as well. Oh, and I didn't cover Quick Notes. I always forget something. Quick Notes is a global floating window. You can put it wherever you want. We'll remember where it is. And in this are your Top 10 notes, or as many as you want. But your keynotes, the one that you want to be able to get to quickly when you're in a hurry to, for instance, go shopping for a new Mac or whatever. You want to make a note, a quick note. Simply go down to the menu at the bottom and check it off. And now we'll see that Purdue Geology Field Camp is now a quick note. So you can add notes to that list, and you can take things out of it if they become less important to you. That's the basics, and we can move on to the advanced stuff in version 2 whenever you're ready. Top 10 Notes 2, which is definitely not ready for release, but I'll just give you a quick look at it. One of the things you can't see is our new stronger encryption. We're moving to an AES 256, which is kind of an industry standard. There's really no difference at all in the way the encryption works in Top 10 Notes 1 or 2. It just is stronger in Top 10 Notes 2. One of the things I'm most excited about is the new pictures and notes capability. And to demo this, I put here a number of different image formats on my desktop, and I'm just going to drag these. So this is a TIFF with our two dogs at the back door. This is a GIF. I'm just dragging these into the note organizer, and they immediately show up as a new note. This is a PNG. That's the groovy icon for our To Remember program. And I think I've got a JPEG laying around here someplace. I can figure out what I do with it. But the point of all this is that we cover a wide variety of image formats. I don't seem to have a JPEG handy. So none of those are all things. But you can drag these to the note organizer. It'll make a new note with just an image, no text. Or you can drag your image. Let me just find a different one. It might work a little better. There we go. You can drag your icon into the text. I don't know if you can see me, but the cursor is showing up within the note. And you can place it in different places in the note, and you can drag it around. So you can actually build a little report this way if you would want to do so. Let me Let me go to a different, find one there, that's a little better one. You can also drag images from note to note, just as you can drag text from note to note. That's, of course, been a feature for a long time. So a little bit different than the way it used to work. Handling a variety of image formats, big project. And then you can also export this. So this note happens to be called hardware, and it happens to have an image that's not hardware. If I drag a note to the desktop, that puts out an RTF file. And that's something we're still working on, is getting the image to show up in the RTF file. So that's pictures and notes. Notice we also have a fourth type of tab up here, something called the to-do note, and this is another one of those little ironies that we were talking about earlier. I was looking at Apple's new notes program in El Capitan, and I noticed that they have put checklists in notes. Now, it's something that's new that they've added. And we have kind of gone the exact opposite way and put a checklist in our note organizer that has what we call a to-do note in it. So instead of having a note, a checklist in a note, it's a note that's a part of a checklist system. So it's kind of sort of the polar opposite from what Apple has done. And this is something that's just a trial implementation. We're going to see how people like it. Everybody seems to like to check things off in lists. You can set a priority and a due date, and so forth.
I've always felt like one of the strengths of Top 10 Notes is the ability to have multiple notes open in that unified window. And now in the age of 21 and 25 and 27-inch screens with all this resolution, how many notes across can I open if I want to?
As many as you've got room for. Your only limitation is the sliding text toolbar, which needs about 2.5 inches. So I'll just start opening note views here. We'll see where we end up on this monitor. Now I've got a 3-monitor system here, so it's going to open quite a few of these.
So it can span monitors as well.
Yes.
Oh my.
And so, yeah, I don't know if you can see all of this. This will keep going. When it reaches the maximum width, the notes will start getting narrower. There. So that's it's bumping into the left and the right edges of the screen right now. I have note organizer plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 note views open. Why you would want to do that, I don't know. But certainly 2 or 3 is very handy, and I do that myself many times. And there's 2 or 3 ways where this is very handy, I found. One is if you're working on a task that gets to be too long and you want to break it up into 2 notes, very easy with having them adjacent to one another. If you want to have multiple pieces of information to do a task, maybe a shopping list, a list of websites where you're going to shop, a little financial budget note, each in a separate view. You don't have to flip back and forth different pages of a book. It's like having a book open to multiple pages at the same time. And then we also have this little sliding toolbar here that stays above whichever note view you're typing, with all of your font information and related stuff. You can change the font size. You can change the font color. You can do different styles. And you're not limited to, I haven't really adjusted what notes in what view yet, but you're definitely not limited in any way there. It's just how this happened to end up. There's no reason why you can't have whatever you need.
Jim, I'm curious, why did you go with the floater as opposed to a menu bar item?
Well, this is an old argument. At one point, Apple was trying to kick everybody out of the toolbar, and they kind of gave up on that. Then they came up with an API for putting things in the toolbar, and then they changed it and changed it again. I actually broke one of our apps that we were working on called iAddressX, which we eventually got around that this year and released iAddressX. So we actually have an app that works from the toolbar. But we just thought that there were so many apps cramming into the toolbar, it was getting to be too crowded. And we thought the global floater would be a nice idea. It's an always on top window, it's unique, and it's something different from what everybody else is doing. We may eventually give you the option to go either way, because some people really like having something up there in the toolbar. I do sometimes. I mean, sometimes it's very handy. But that was a decision made a long time ago, and we haven't changed it.
I don't know if it's built into the version that you're showing here, but can you give us a look at any of the syncing controls?
The what?
The syncing controls,
Sure.
is that, because that was something we didn't really talk about. If I decide that I want Top 10 Notes to be my hub, as you said, can I control what syncs to, say, my iPad versus what syncs to my iPhone?
Yes. So you have a sync window. Let me turn on syncing in my iPhone. You have a few little manual steps. So this is Top 10 Notes Pro. It's not out yet. I'm turning on syncing for that, and it showed up in the window. And that's all you have to do. You click sync, and it'll go sync for you. I'm not going to do that because I don't think sync is quite ready for delivery in Top 10 Notes 2. That's one of the things that we're going to be working on. But all you do is click this, and it'll give you a little report down here, how many notes were synced, and so forth. You have two choices when you're setting up your synchronization. You go to this Devices tab, and you can sync all notes or only the notes in a sync category. And that's selected just like Quick Notes down here with this little note. So you can select, say, I want to sync this banking information. I don't recommend you do that, by the way. But this would probably be one of the ones you would exclude with this system. Or you can sync everything. Those are the two choices. You just given me a third idea, which is to have a choice that's kept aside for each device. So maybe you want to sync all of your notes to your iPod, but not your sensitive notes, because you don't want to be carrying that around with you and have it get lost and fall in somebody's hands. So I'm going to look into that. That's actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah, syncing, we've said this so often on this show, Jim. Syncing would seem to be on the surface simple, but syncing can get very, very complex very, very quickly. And there's always the potential for lost data. And it's one of the reasons that sometimes I either want to find an intermediary, in Apple's case, that's often iCloud, to sort of moderate things. I think your idea of having my Mac as my master, the truth, as you said, is yeah, there are things I'd probably rather not have out on the cloud or out in a cloud service, and this would allow them maybe not to be completely updated all the time, real time, in my system, but it would also give me a lot more privacy.
Well, I think so. It just kind of depends on the information you're moving about. And, if you have a large number of sensitive notes and you're turning encryption on and off and going in and out of them a lot, you have to be careful not to leave one unencrypted and then sync. You actually, put it out on your iPad or pod or phone without knowing. that could cause problems if it's your wife's birthday list or something like that. So or it's financial information, even more problems. This is something that everybody deals with. I don't think Apple doesn't have any encryption in their notepad that I know of. So you can't really, I wouldn't recommend anybody put anything sensitive in a note product that doesn't offer encryption. Apple has the keychain. Well, I know I have some friends who use the keychain for their sensitive information. I don't find that to be real convenient, but you can do that. My guess is Apple will eventually offer that as a feature, but they don't right now.
So this looks like it has a lot of benefits that can solve some people's problems. And again, I think that people need to look at their note situation. It's funny that you have the to-do list in there because there's this really blurry line between lists and notes. I'm never quite sure, when a program calls itself a notes program or a list program, there's a big overlap.
There is, and there's a lot of little subtle differences in implementations of this. So we have one that we came up with. It may not be a permanent one, but it's what we came up with for this release. And it works. It's the idea of for us of having, kind of goes back to one of the originating ideas of our product, which was to get all those little bits of paper that we all have scattered all over our computer in various formats into one place, easily accessible, encrypt your sensitive information, and just have one place to go for things most of the time, and then have quick notes for instant access. So, if we can get some kind of to-do implementation into our notes, and each, let's just call it project for lack of a better term, is within a note, then that's one type of information gathered up in one place.
So the IndieGoGo campaign, we're recording this, as I said, a little bit early, but when is it scheduled to go? And we all know how those things happen. They go kind of when they go. But when are you planning on having the IndieGoGo campaign live?
It went live yesterday.
Oh, it is live. Okay.
Yes, it's live, and it has it's a 60-day campaign, and so we're just trying to get the word out there to people. One of the unfortunate things that's happened is our email lists are pretty old, and I've gotten a lot of bounces, so I've got a lot of customers to find that are out there, but I don't know how to contact them. People are not real good about coming back to you with a change of email address if they bought your product, and I find it's not anything to slam against our product at all, because people who are using it that I haven't heard from in 4 or 5 years will suddenly pop up and say, I need to upgrade to the latest version. How do I do that, or whatever? So I'm always astounded that somebody, we're working our rear ends off trying to get the next version out constantly, and here's somebody that's been using the old version for 5 years and perfectly happy. So I guess whatever Top 10 Notes offers as a feature set, the basics seem to be something that if people like it, they stick with it.
And it should be said that you've spent a long time on the user group trail. You did a lot of user group tours and a lot of user group demos. And so there are a lot of customers out there in that space. And, unfortunately, there does seem to be a tendency, people just don't see the value of getting an email address that is tied to their own domain. They will use at Comcast or at Yahoo or whatever, and then change it again as they change service providers. And you're right, it's easy for you to lose touch with them, they lose touch with you. So I guess this is an open call. If you're a Top 10 Notes user and you have changed your email address or haven't been getting any notifications from Jim, here's your big chance.
Well, I appreciate that, and I would love to to get in touch with as many of our customers as we can during this campaign. We think what we've concocted in the way of deals, that IndieGoGo calls them perks, are pretty good bargains for people. And we probably won't have anything like this for a while afterwards. So I'm very excited about it as we put a lot of work into this thing, and hopefully it's going to be a benefit to a lot of our customers. And it's also a chance for customers, if they want to get all of our Mac software in a bundle at a very reduced price, and help us get Top 10 Notes 2 finished up.
So a couple contact pieces here. First of all, we'll have a link to the IndieGoGo campaign in the show notes. Go there by all means. Jim, the best website to learn more about Top 10 Notes in its current incarnation and moving forward is?
www.tropic4.com.
Perfect. And I don't know if you want to say this or if there's a contact form on the website, but if folks have been out of touch and want to get in touch with you about an upgrade, is there a best way to contact you?
Yeah, there's a contacts menu in the website. It's very easy to find. And they can also go, we've temporarily taken down our main webpage and put up one that makes it very easy to get to the IndieGoGo campaign. Just push the little tour button there, and you'll be off into the IndieGoGo world. And you can also, if you want to, get back to by pushing the home button, get back to the old index page. So if you want to do something like buy one particular piece of software or go to the contact page, and that would be the way you go.
Great. Well, it's good to see you. And I hope that this campaign goes as well for you as you hope it does. You bring some interesting ideas to the table, and once again, with notes and list applications, I think there's plenty of room for more than one, even for each user. So check out Top 10 Notes and its feature set, and figure out how it might fit into your life.
I hope everybody will do that. Very nice talking to you, Jack.
It's good to see you too. Stay in touch, and we'll check in again as Top 10 Notes moves forward.
All right.
Great. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. Again, check out Top 10 Notes and the IndieGoGo campaign. I think you might find it an interesting addition to your software toolkit. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and the MacVoices blog. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, the MacVoices Dispatch, to stay up to date on all the latest MacVoices news from our front page or at MacVoices.com/newsletter. Do more with your Apple tech by subscribing to the free MacVoices magazine on Flipboard by visiting MacVoices.com/magazine. Advertising and sponsorships handled by Backbeat Media at BackbeatMedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.